Was that a serious 3, 2, 1 go, or?
I think it would be hilarious if we started recording right now. All right, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to Moonhawk Studios Presents.
All right, welcome to another edition of Moonhawk Studios Presents, I think. I am your host, Mac Paladin, and with me in the studio as always is my good friend, Adam.
What, are you so tired that you were hallucinating now?
I don't know. I just don't know.
It's better than hallucinating so much that you're tired.
Yeah. Like, I had this terrible hallucination that I was asleep, and then I woke up.
Been there, done that.
But then I woke up from being woken up again. It was very meta.
And then there was like this weird bong sound every few minutes.
I don't get the reference, so I'm just going to
Inception.
go, yeah! Oh, Inception?
Yeah. Whatever
Okay.
that noise.
I saw that movie once. All right, on co-hosting duties, we've got Elemental Ogre.
I'm just here.
Sobe has taken an early summer vacation.
It's summer,
so she won't be here with us tonight. We got Petty Fan in the hizzy. Oh, thank God our guest came back.
Love you too, Mac, you asshole.
No, I just saw. Oh God, she dropped.
Oh, believe me, we've had enough about that, but we'll be hearing about that in a minute.
Say something non sequitur-ish if you can hear us.
Elemental Flangler Japan?
You ding dong.
I assume he's talking to the guest.
Hi.
Okay. Whew. Oh, Skype troubles galore, folks. The Golix is here.
Yes, if you hadn't gathered.
Yes. And I've got no more Mega Man references, so Twilight Winter.
Yo.
something Mega Buster.
I know you too much, Mac, and you're walking for a traffic now.
Oh, God. Well, given the way this is starting out, I can tell you this is going to be a great show tonight, folks. Trust me. But before that all happens, let's get started with the news. Adam?
Well, as we've been alluding, things blew up on Fragments of Silicon this week.
And not the good way or the interesting way it blew up.
Oh, dear.
Rather Petty Fan here had his usual crippling problems with Skype right in the middle of developers' interview, so...
Skype has updated and will now shut down.
I wish it was just because of an update, but it just kept booting me out.
This has happened before, and we're not exactly sure why. At least my Discord problems have been fixed, so
yeah.
That's an option again. But yeah, that kind of torpedoed the second part of the show. Kind of in pieces now, and
on the other hand, that means that the audience didn't have to listen to us talk about Bubsy, so maybe they came out ahead of the game.
We will talk about PUBG one day, so all it did was delay things.
And then my Skype drops because we mentioned PUBG.
Good Lord! Of all the series to mention, Jesus, what a tragedy! All right. I'm guessing that was it for you, Adam, then?
Yeah, that's about all I can share this week.
Ogre?
It's been relatively calm this week so far. The weather's been kind of nice, though it's supposed to get hotter here soon. So, take it when you can get it, I guess. Recordings are going along fine, as usual. It's nice to be able to play games that don't take too long to complete, but Hey, sometimes you just go in blind and don't realize you're taking on a 6-month challenge, but
Oh no!
whatever.
Wow. That's a Patience Danielson moment.
I apparently had patience up until I realized, ooh, wait, hold on.
We started this in February, January?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, I don't remember signing up for these rewards.
That's kind of really about it. Just like I said, it's been kind of a lazy week, so.
All right. Petty fan. Enlighten us.
Well, most of the week I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood, so yay.
Hooray.
Also, I saw my knee doctor Monday, and I'm probably gonna be looking for a new knee doctor. Cause, well, basically he told me that he wants me to do more exercises, and he didn't give me anything for the pain in my knee that's so bad I can barely walk.
You got to work out more, but you can't work on your knees because you're in excruciating pain that prevents you from working on them.
Basically.
It's a cycle.
And then,
it's a cycle.
And yeah, he wants me to see him in 10 months, and that's like, really? So yeah, I see my regular doctor in August, and if these exercises aren't helping anything by then, I'm going to see if you can refer me to a different doctor.
Alright.
Because yeah, that's kind of asinine. Other than that, aside from the tech failing on fragments, not a whole lot to report.
Well, don't feel bad about the tech failure. Apparently, I invited a virus into our computer shop, so.
Oh boy, was it that new ransomware?
No, we'll get to that in my news segment, but I just thought I'd commiserate with you for a moment. Alex, what have you got?
Oh, well, this past week has been kind of stressful, about half in a good way. I was actually at PortCon Maine, which is the local anime and assorted geek convention, over this past weekend, which was fun, but, you know, being away from home is always a little bit stressful, especially when it involves spending a lot of money. And then when I came back, I was moved to a different office at work, because we're rearranging stuff so that they can rent out the bottom floor or whatever. And also I'm on a loaner car because my car had a weird engine problem. Then I was supposed to have my red car back today, but they had a busy week, so the car won't be done until Friday. So I'm kind of tired and trying to take solace in video games and stuff, but I don't know how well that's working. Mostly I'm just tired. And also families trying to iron down vacation plans, and looks like we're going to be going away late August, early September, and I have to decide if I want to go.
Yay.
I might be able to go for half of it, which might be good. They're going away for 2 weeks because, you know, Dad's retired and Mom can get time off because she's had her job for a while. I don't particularly want to take 2 of my, 2 weeks of vacation for that and not have much left for the holidays or anything. But we have another family another part of our family that's going to be joining us partway through, so I might, I don't know, take a train down to Boston and go down with them or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out what we're doing. But it's another thing to think about.
All right.
Other than that, I did get my purchases at the con. I mostly got board games and card games because I've been playing some of those and they're pretty fun. And I go to a game store where people play them a lot now, so that's nice. But I did get the collector's edition of Breath of the Wild for the Switch because they had it for less than I saw it for online, at least on Amazon. And I got Ever Oasis for the 3DS, which is neat. So that is most of my adventures, and right now I'm playing ARMS.
Right. Twilight Winter, what have you got?
Well, this past Saturday around noon was kind of experience for a lot of what would be considered a lot of people's worst nightmare. We discovered a copperhead in the bed of one of the bedrooms we don't use.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Luckily, we was able to kill it and get rid of it. So that was a harrowing experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, and besides that, we had a water leak in our hot water tank, and we was able to get that fixed.
Something Copperhead Plumbing.
Yeah. Hashtag Southern problems.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was
God.
leaving the door open at night, most likely, in the rain. But
Wow.
while it's raining. Yeah.
Well, that's
so,
fun.
Mhm. And besides that, I've been playing games for Fragments, and that's about it on my end.
It's a hard knocks life. All right. Yeah, I forgot to warn our guests tonight that I occasionally break into song.
Honestly, same, and so does the rest of my family, so it's all good.
You're like, oh, this is unusual? Oh.
No, this is life.
Oh, boy. All right, well, let's get my news segment here. What we got going on? Starship Moonhawk is my life when I'm not drawing smutty things. But,
Star Hawk ship.
yeah, stop. You guys are terrible. About 9 years ago, I hired this gal. We'll go by her nom de plume, Nico Chie. Started drawing the comic for me. And my good friend Marie Terry of Shifters fame colored it for a while. And then I rebooted the series. And I thought to myself, I'm going to do the whole thing over again because I'm ambitious like that, i.e. insane. And then the years started dragging on. I went out to Alabama for a while. I came back to Tucson. That turned into 6 years. And I was suddenly like, oh, shit. I need to do something with this. I paid like $3,000 for all of this artwork. So I ran all of my old pages. And Keith has been assisting me with refurbishing the artwork that this famed but partially anonymous artist did for me, so that it
Famed but partially anonymous. That's a nice one.
Yeah, well, she's famous, but I'm not allowed to use her real name.
Ah.
So...
Secret famous artist friend.
Yeah, something like that. Friend would probably be stretching it at this point. But yeah, so we had all this artwork. There was about 44 pages of artwork that was up for consideration. And it was too good to just throw away. So what we've been doing is we've been refurbishing it to coincide with canonical changes I've made to the storyline in the last 10 years. I thought this would be easy, he says with a smirk. That's right, I'm narrating my own dialogue here. It's taking a little more effort than I thought, but we're still able to update it 3 times a week. I need to get Keith to refurbish a couple of more Act 4 pages, and then everything else we have going on happens in Act 5. And the interesting thing about that is that a lot of characters shifted positions. In fact, I introduced an entirely new character to replace someone who went with Admiral Cobalt on the mission, which was actually a completely unnecessary move because said character comes back for the climax of Act 5. But, you live and learn. Still an interesting story, and it's a very likable character, and it's all part of my trying to round out the story and create more inclusion for people who might be underrepresented in science fiction. And it's actually working out pretty well. But this huge change in the storyline necessitates that we create a 5-page sequence that doesn't already exist right in the middle of all of the pages I already have. So that's interesting.
This is easy if you're a wizard.
Yes, you got a wizard, Harry. That was probably one of my worst accents ever. So I'm training my new artist. He goes by the name Henderson Soares. He's from Brazil. Some of you may know him from other projects by a different name that we won't say on the air. But it's actually coming along really well, and he's extremely eager. But to keep some consistency, since Keith completely from scratch finished Act 3 and the new opening to Act 4, Keith is going to stay on as colorist and special effects artist. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these two guys work together, because Keith and Henderson have very, very different styles. I think those of you who follow me long enough know this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited to see this, because I think if it goes the way I think it's going to go, it's going to probably be more epic than when I paired my moderately famous semi-anonymous artist with Marie. Which I had pegged at the time as being, quote, the best Starship Moonhawk has ever looked. Which I have some serious questions about, because I was reviewing Keith's artwork on Act 3, and I was like, actually, this is some of the best work, because Keith strove for a level of accuracy and intricacy that virtually no other artist I've ever employed has executed on. Like, Keith really understood everything from the importance of uniform insignia to, you know, placement, to body types, to hairstyles, to all that stuff. You know, one of the most important things that they say about anything that is anime based is that or really anything in cartooning, is that it needs to be iconic. You have to be able to recognize it instantly in silhouette. Otherwise, you haven't done your job as a character designer. And Keith really executed on that. When you see Cobalt in shadow, even in his style, it looks like Admiral Gilead Cobalt. When you see Solis or any other character in his style, Sakila, Micaiah, any of the other characters in the series in his style, it's really quite a sight to behold. And like I said, if Henderson can get that same distinctiveness, and from the sketch work that he's been submitting to me lately, I think we've got it nailed. If he can maintain that level of distinctiveness with Keith's effects and polish, this is going to be probably one of the most epic finales in the history of sci-fi webcomics.
But the real question is, what do you do after the finale?
Well, then we work on the sequel.
The train, it never stops.
We keep doing the sequels until the grosses go down. And that's my lame Arnold Schwarzenegger impression.
I thought it was just straight up McBain, but I'm not that familiar with The Simpsons. I mean, I'm familiar with it, but I don't know all the lines.
I just made a Last Action Hero reference. Are you guys really going to be kids like this forever?
I think I've actually
yeah.
seen that one. But my memory is shit, so...
I haven't seen any of them, so y'all have fun with that.
All right, well, I've had enough with giving myself self-deprecating laughs, so since there's nothing to say about the movie, without further ado, let's move on to the main event. I'd like to introduce our guest tonight, one Cara Dennison.
Hello.
Yes, welcome to the program. Your skill set and accomplishments are apparently legion here. Based on our conversations, you're involved in quite a few things. I mean, I do have to issue a quick correction. You are not the con chair for those cons, but you are senior staff.
I am senior staff. The con chair is Oni Hartstein. They're run by Onizumi Events. As I was telling you earlier, there was a guest at Regen who would like to see Oni and me like duel for con chairship, but it's not a job I want. So
Yeah, it's a bit rough from what I've heard.
I really admire all my friends who are con chairs. I look at everything they do and everything they have to handle, and I do a lot of things. That's not a skill set I have.
Mhm. Well, as long as you don't run things like Anime Land 2Con. That was so like.
Is that trying to be a pun on Tucson and Con?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
So Anime Land, who's being sued 6 ways this Sunday on just about everything, hosted a con here back in 2012, and it was called Anime Land 2Con, and it was at the Holiday Inn, and they were estimating that about 350 people would show up. About 60 did. There was no table assignments, no computers. The staff was just milling around, scratching their butts. The concessions the only concessions available were provided by the hotel. Oh, and then some
Wait,
girl
was that number of people staff or attendees?
Kind of a combination of both.
Oh God.
Anytime you asked for anything, they had no clue. We had to pay for everything with cash. Oh, and then there was a fun little bit where some girl with a legal pad who looked like con staff came running around, asked for our names and email addresses and $35 and said we'd get half off next year for the inconvenience of this year. That person disappeared with all of our money.
Oh.
Dear God.
When I tried to get a hold of Anime Land about it, they're like, I'm sorry, what con is this? Do we even have one in Tucson?
Oh no.
If you'd like to come up to Colorado, and I'm like, double middle finger. Anyway, this is about you, so didn't mean to go off on that tangent, but I mean,
that was fascinating. Thank you.
That is how you don't run a con. I'm sure you guys do things differently.
We have a fantastic time. I mean, no con is ever perfect.
Sure.
Anyone who tells you that their con went perfectly is lying.
Mhm.
Right.
It's not whether your con is perfect, it's whether no one out front can tell that it's not. You know?
As long as no one leaves in the ambulance, you've done fine.
Exactly. As long as everyone in front of the curtain thinks everything is going fine, then you're on top of things. You know, but
Meanwhile, everyone behind the curtain is like praying for the sweet release of death.
It's
like I had a great time, but I don't know why my ankles hurt.
Yeah, no, I get in at those conventions. I get in Wednesday evening, and I leave Tuesday afternoon. So I'm there for a week, a couple days either side of it. So it's a lot of work. They're run amazingly. Oni has put together a really wonderful staff, from senior staff all the way down to the volunteers. And the attendees have a great time. The guests have a great time, and it's wonderful to see the way people talk online about us and the way the guests sort of run home to the other actors like, guys, you got to hear about this con.
So the big ones that you're primarily involved with these days are Potterverse and the Doctor Who one that escapes me because I'm retarded.
Regeneration Who.
Regeneration Who.
Yeah,
Great
Potterverse,
names and very iconic, but it's like I keep trying to remember way too many things.
Now now about what size are these cons? Like number of attendees or?
I don't have this year's numbers, but Regen, our second year, we were just under 2,000. We actually had about 1,600 our first year, which was really not bad at all. We started at the Hunt Valley for the first 2 years. We've moved up to the Inner Harbor, so we're round about the 2,000 mark, and we want to grow, but we don't want to grow. We don't want to be 100,000 people. We want to keep it to where we get enough people through the door that we can afford the more expensive guests, but you're still, you're not standing in line for 5 hours. So
Okay, that's more comparable to the size of the conventions that I'm used to than I expected.
yeah, we deliberately scale a little smaller so that people like me who go to the big warehouse cons and you step in the door and the anxiety hits, because it's just lines and lines and lines and people and noise, and sometimes those cons are super expensive, and yeah, you want to meet your fave, but you can't stand in line all day.
Mm-hmm.
So we are a potential alternative to that, and we're very programming based. We do have the interviews and things. We do have autographs and photo ops and things, but we are very sort of education based too. Our first event was called Intervention, and it was sort of fandom and teaching, and the guests would come in and they would talk about themselves, but they would also go, they would have acting workshops, they would have writing workshops, and stuff like that. So we preserve that in the cons now, and we have the guests come in and teach as well as do the fan thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have a particular favorite, whether by subject material or organization, that you prefer to do?
Between Potter or Regen?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we haven't had Potter yet, so I mean.
Oh, so that's coming up. Okay.
That's coming up in September. It'll be our first year. We have some awesome guests coming. I can't remember them off the top of my head because long day, as you guys have said.
Oh yeah.
But I am a massive Doctor Who fan, so I was a guest at Intervention for comics like the first few years, and then Oni took me out to dinner one night and was like, "Hey, are there any Doctor Who cons in the area?" And I said, "No." People are kind of pissed off about that because, there's one in New York, there's one in California, there's one in Florida, there's nothing right here. And then a few months go by, she takes me out to dinner again, and she says, "So about this Doctor Who con we're starting." And I'm like, "What?" So, what? So I went from guest to staff on that because I am not the most knowledgeable Doctor Who fan in my group, but I am probably one of the more vocal.
Okay.
And so she can come to me and say, "Hey, will the attendees like this? Is this actor popular? What guest should I get around this actor?" Sort of thing. So
Right.
she's also a fan, but there's always something to be gained by asking around for
Sure.
that kind of thing. Yeah.
So that leads to an interesting question then. Are you more of a reboot fan, or are you a classic fan, or are you one of those purists that loves it all?
Well, when I first started watching, there was no new series. I started watching in '99, and the first thing was the movie. The newest thing was the movie. So I started with the movie of all things.
That's the one with John Hurt?
No, that's the one with Paul McGann.
Okay.
And so I started with the '96 TV movie that was part of the series, not the Peter Cushing Doctor Who and the Daleks. So I did see that. And so all I could do was sort of go backwards from, the videos that my friends had that they had taped off PBS near them. New series didn't start till I was out of college and, off living on my own. But I jumped into that with both feet. And, I really love it. I love the current guy. I'm going to be heartbroken when he goes. Peter Capaldi is just great as a person, as an actor.
I've heard that, and they hadn't really had an old one. I mean, aside from the War Doctor from the special, they hadn't really had an old Doctor since the reboot. So
yeah, they hadn't had an older one. He was the same age as William Hartnell, first Doctor, when he started, but again, mid-50s in 2014 is younger than mid-50s in the 60s, if that
Right.
makes sense. So
Exactly.
but so I love both. I acknowledge the merits and flaws of both. The pacing of the classic series can really turn some people off because, I love Genesis of the Daleks, but it could totally have been 2 episodes shorter. And, there are some there are some story choices with new series that were I the super famous and well-off person making the series, then I would have done it differently, but that's not me. So I really love both. I find it hard to choose, because they both have their merits, they both have their flaws, and if you ask me to come watch Doctor Who with you, I don't care which version it ends up being. I just get to watch Doctor Who.
Nice.
Yeah.
I remember we had Kevin Bulk on the program a while back, and he did that whole thing with the Ensign Sue must die, and of course, Doctor Who featured prominently in his storyline.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Kevin's an old friend. I look at where he's got now. I'm just like, oh my god, man. Like, I was talking about him one day, and a friend of mine goes, "You know Kevin Bulk?" And I was like, "Yeah." Is he famous? Oh my god, he does all this stuff. Good for him. Wow. I mean, no offense to Kevin. I'm just so behind on things, but seeing just how far he's come, I'm so happy because he's such a talent.
Right.
Yeah. I did a Mirror Sue costume once.
Oh.
When Ensign Sue first happened, and I was like, God, I love Mirror Sue. I don't know. She's what I would have written when I was 16. So let's do it. And and a guy at a con actually sort of tried to take me to task for not doing the Mirror Universe uniform right.
What?
And I couldn't even be mad, because it was so meta.
Right.
I went back and I told Kevin, I said, "You're not going to believe what happened." I got accused of being a Mary Sue.
Wow.
Like, yes, sir.
I'm like, you get it, only you don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, I just had to walk off and giggle because I was like, I guess I succeeded then.
Now, speaking of cosplay, now you do pretty extensive cosplay yourself. So much so that many moons ago you used to do a comic called Conscrew, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, and the name for that, because people have asked me about that, like, what the hell? And I remember one of my very first NECO cons. I was still a young little con goer. I was doing like closet cosplay still, and I was still learning about the scene, and there were these girls, and they were bitching about this girl they knew. They were just sitting right in the lobby of this hotel bitching about this girl they knew. And one of them says, "She is such a conscrew." Like, talking about how she had slept with like 5 different guys. And I was like, I'm going to write that down. I don't know what I'm going to use it for. But just the fact that they popped that term out and seemed to just run with it. And I'm like, well, I'll have it. And so technically the term refers to apparently some poor girl who was, getting judged for what she gets up to at cons. But when I was putting it all together, I was like, this is the only way I can describe this mess that I'm putting together. So.
Oh my God. That reminds me of about 7 years ago, we had the creator of the comic Emergency Exit on the show. That was how that came about. I love hearing how this stuff all evolves, because it's like she's like, well, I was sitting on the school bus one day and I just looked over. I was trying to think of a name for the comic and I looked over and saw the emergency exit sign. So bang, there's the name of the comic. And a few of the people who are here now were on the show way back then, and we're all just like crickets chirping. We're like, fascinating.
That's good. I think that's something like how they got the name for like Marble Hornets. One of my side things is I love dark media creepypasta stuff. That's my joy on the side. I love macabre stuff. And I was like, Marble Hornets is such a wild name. Where did it come from? And apparently the director was like, well, I was driving down the street, the show didn't have a name, and I saw a sign for like a marble store and a sign for like a hornet exterminator and Marble Hornets. And I was like, well, okay.
It's like, well, thanks for shattering my illusions. Have a great day.
Yeah. I was ready to like delve into I was ready to go English major, but all right, that works too.
Right.
Could have been worse. It could have been worse. You could have just named an online comic with a 10-second idea for a title. I mean, of course, that was taken, but
So now, how long exactly did you do that comic?
It was just under 10 years, and it was never intended to be that long. It the vague concept I had started sketching, and this is it started when I was in college, and it started from Emmy, the main character, was one of a few random people I was just drawing in my astronomy notebook because two friends and I took this intro to astronomy course, and the professor never taught. He read from the book in front of us, and then once in a while he'd like recite a poem he wrote in the 70s about dragons in the sky, and we're just like, well, there's nothing to do here, but if we don't show up to class, he's going to grade us down. So, one girl was writing fanfic in Russian, and so in case she got caught writing, no one would see the smut she was writing, and and I just sat there and started drawing little characters doing math and just goofy stuff. And then one day I'm like, I want to learn to draw. Well, a great way to force myself to draw is if I keep to a schedule. So I did Conscrew because I had started going to cons. I had some jokes to make, and I wanted to learn to draw. And then people started reading it, so I had to keep going. And
obligations, damn it.
A lot of the friends I have now are people that I referenced in Conscrew because I would go to these East Coast conventions, and there were just these people that everybody knew. And they would host the masquerades, and they would host this, and they would host that. And now I am one of those people, which was also never a plan. But these people would see their names mentioned in the comic, but they loved the jokes, and so they would start seeking me out and be like, when am I going to be in it again? Actually, one of them, Rob Lance, is now one of my oldest friends, and we do another comic together now. So
Wow.
Yeah, so we actually met because I was like, God, he's everywhere. Why the hell is he everywhere? Time to make a joke, and he thought it was great. So.
And from what you were telling me, you sort of parlayed this into a career in comics. Now you've got a graphic novel you're working on.
I actually have a light novel I'm working on, which is
Okay.
it's slightly different.
Right.
Yeah, graphic novel being comic, light novel is novella with pictures. For those who don't follow the Japanese stuff, I think light novels are starting to get a lot more mainstream notice though now.
Yeah, I actually was contemplating doing that with Starship Moonhawk. There's a prequel novel in the series called The Fire in the Forge, and my ex did a bunch of internal illustrations for it. The book is as yet unpublished, but it'll be the only one in the series that has such illustrations. So.
But yeah, it was. I think it's a wonderful way to get stories out there, and one of the people I work with quite a bit, Ginger Hosley, who incidentally is now the main graphic designer for both Regen and Potterverse. She came to Intervention and said, I'd love to work here, and now she can't leave. How it happened. But her art is just stunning. She's about 25, 26 years old. If she's listening, she's going to hate me for not remembering her exact age because her birthday was recently. But
That's okay. I haven't remembered any of the names correctly on this show except for yours so far.
Fantastic. I am honored.
It's that 40-something senility kicking in.
But we had gotten to know each other online and sort of bonded over fan art and Doctor Who and Sleepy Hollow, and then other stuff, and we both like Ace Attorney. We both like Golden Sun. We both like really randomly obscure game no one else ever draws anything for. So we started hanging out for that, and one day between us, we worked out this idea for a light novel series, and a lot of it came from the fact that neither of us likes paranormal romance, and we feel like we should, because we both love sci-fi fantasy and we both like romance. But paranormal romance is not what we want. We read it and we're like, this is terrible though. This is the exact opposite of what we want. This is like people being horrible to each other and not understanding each other and all the drama. Yeah, this is terrible. And
this is porn for people who are afraid to get naked.
Yeah, and it's like we're going. Just the nature of the name makes us feel like this was something we'd be totally down for, but it's, what it's become is terrible. It's like, fine, how would we write a paranormal romance? Well, first of all the drama wouldn't come from will they or won't they. It would be more, the central figure is a couple, and paranormal stuff happens.
Yes.
And so we ended up with this central couple where the woman is not 16. That was the other thing. The main girl's not a teenager. She is a small business owner in her early 30s, and the guy, the immortal, instead of being like angsty teenage-looking vampire or werewolf or zombie or whatever they are now, is a local nature deity with anxiety, and he just really wants to drink coffee, and that's how they meet. And it ended up being very silly, very dramatic. We pull in cultural stuff from really all over the world. So the first book is an origin story, and then each book after that, we're just playing with sort of the pantheons of all these different groups. So the story is never, oh no, they fought and they're apart. Oh no, there's a prophecy that says they can't be together. It's like, no. It's, and Ginger's art is just utterly stunning. The book series, incidentally, I should give the title, shouldn't I? That's a thing.
Absolutely. That would be my next question.
Yeah, the book series is called Owl's Flower. It's also the name of the cafe that's sort of the center of all these paranormal goings-on. We just put out our second book, and once you get to the second book, you feel like you've overcome a hurdle. It's not, oh, this was almost a series. Once you've done Owl's Flower and
Owl's Flower. That sounds like something like I was watching Harry Potter and baking some cookies, and I needed a title.
Well, the Hearn, who is the main guy, he is a nature deity. Now, granted, he rules over about 46 square miles, so he's not a big deal. He's kind of a local. He's kind of a local dude, and he can change into various animals. And the one he tends to change into is a small screech owl, who is generally quite ridiculous and silly, despite the guy being very, fairly kind and fairly gentlemanly. Once the owl shows up, it's like, just, okay, all your cookies are gone and you're going to get screamed at for a while. So, I mean, we don't, like I said, we don't take ourselves horrendously seriously because we're here to have fun. And the second book is kind of a ghost story because it was originally supposed to come out around Halloween. And again, Ginger did absolutely beautiful artwork for all of it. We do come up with them together. It's not I went and got her to illustrate my story. Mm-hmm. It's we both do it, and then we divide up the words and the pictures, which I think some people might misunderstand upon first looking. It's not mine and she came in, it's ours. And it's very fun to collaborate with someone like that, I think.
This is absolutely great. I'm just loving hearing all about this stuff because this is like first of all, the depth and breadth of all the stuff you're involved in is just fascinating conversation, number one.
Oh. Yay, thank you.
Well, that, and as a novelist myself, you're my peeps.
Oh yeah. The writing, I mean, I've been writing in some form forever because I used to be like a news writer for a news website for about almost 10 years. And I eventually left because I eventually went freelance. I wasn't liking the schedule. I wasn't liking the stress. And a lot of the stress actually came from having nothing to do, if that makes sense.
Right.
You know,
right.
when you have a job where you're just spinning your wheels all day, and
Well,
you're like, yeah,
Yeah, and of course, the job of writer means that if you don't write, you don't get paid. So
right. It's like I could be off doing this, I could be off doing this, but I'm just sitting here at the desk waiting for my manager to say, "Hey, do another of those BuzzFeed style quizzes that'll make us go viral."
oh God.
And so I eventually I left, went freelance, and first I was doing localization, but now I've started doing news writing and actually getting some fiction published on the side, which is really something I've been wanting to do since I was a kid. So the fact that I'm actually getting books out is amazing.
Now you brought up localization. That reminds me of our pre-interview. I was talking to you about that, and you said that you were involved with the localization of Mazinger.
I was Mazinger and Shin Mazinger, and also Chibi Go Nagai World. So like 3 different versions of that one story.
What was that all about?
Well, it came out from Discotech, and a friend of mine at the time, who I still work with via Viewster, and we're both. I don't remember what he's doing with them now, but I'm a feature writer for them. He was, and I think sometimes still is, a timer and editor for subtitles, and they had this 92 episode thing come in, you know, freaking Mazinger, and usually he does edit and timing because it goes together.
So this is the original Mazinger Z or Z,
yes,
and then the Shin Mazinger from 2009.
That's correct. Except you can't call it a sequel because it's not a sequel, and you can't. We got
right. It's a retelling sort of star system.
Yep.
All the weird things. Oh, and now I have wings that turn my entire body into a giant rocket punch.
Yeah, and we got a massive email from Japan that said you cannot call it a sequel, you cannot call it a remake. You may not put Mazinger and Z next to each other unless you are talking specifically about the robot. And we're like, oh, who got mad?
Wow.
Sounds like mom and dad had a fight, but
there's a lot of baggage on Mazinger Z.
Oh yeah, I imagine. So. Yeah,
Mazinger is one of the 2 pillars of robot animation, and one of the 3 pillars of robot animation in Japan. 2 pillars of super robot animation.
Yep, yeah. Exactly.
I forgot to warn you, Kara, that these guys are giant Gundam fans. So.
Yeah, so, that has nothing to do with Mazinger. Like
no, but the giant robot thing.
Mazinger is the opposite of Gundam.
I was gonna say I'm appreciative of Gundam. I'm a little more super than real when it comes to my robots, but you know, I know my Gundam.
I can go either way.
Yeah, but like, you know, he got in 92 episodes for edit and time, and he's like, I don't want to do both. This is horrible because the scripts needed a lot of work. They were older scripts and they were translated, but they need a lot of work. And he just came to me. He's like, do you want to work on Mazinger? And I was like, do I? And it was, I love that I did it. It was long. It was difficult. I remember I took that freaking show around the world with me. I went to England for a while, and I would be sitting on the train into London, into Victoria Station, picking away at these episodes because I had to be doing them whenever I was in transit, or else I would not finish on time. But
and that's interesting because that is a very Monster of the Week series from my recollection. And there's a lot of and then we're burning time until the next new thing comes up.
Because it wasn't supposed to be as long as it was, from what I understand. It was Go Nagai wanted it to be a lot shorter, but it was no, it's super popular, make it longer. Okay, we'll just redo these episodes again because you hit the same Monster of the Week, not literal, you know, they changed the design, but the same story and the same attack like twice for a bunch of them. So you'd come in and see repeats, yeah.
So then if you were involved in this, then you must be a fan of Martian successor Nadeshiko.
Oh man, I watched that in college.
The series within the series was a meta reference to Mazinger.
Let's go Geki Ganger 3.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yep.
It was a little more Getter than Mazinger, but it's very
Still.
much in that vein.
It's very similar to that. I was just looking
It's-
at design.
It is a Gonagai show, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, it is. You know, it's...
Right.
Yeah, we watched Nadeshko when I was in college, and I remember I was okay with it. I wasn't rushing to see it, but then they brought out the Geki Ganger stuff, and I was like, whoa, hang on.
Yeah, why didn't they just make a show out of this? Then they made like an episode of it.
Yeah, they made like a real short OVA, I think. Which, yeah.
There's one episode of the series that is just that.
You know.
Because the entire dare I say this, because I don't want to spoiler it for somebody who hasn't seen it now that it's on Hulu.
I think statute of limitations. It's been out a while.
Yeah, I think we're past the 20-year mark now.
Yeah.
I just thought it was so funny that entire society was built around the Geki Ganger joke. It was just like, what?
Yep. Well,
The aliens they were fighting, it was just like, we're actually humans, and we're from Earth, and we're here to claim our birthright. But you are ladies, and you must be protected. And I'm like, Jesus, jumped up.
Well, if you want more of Geki Ganger, just get into any Super Robot Wars that has Nadeshko in it, and you'll get used. I mean, you don't get to actually use Geki Ganger, obviously, but you know they'll play the theme for you once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I've collected some of the Neo Super Robot Wars games, and
you definitely get people yelling the attack names because sometimes Akito doesn't want to shut up, and those games usually let Guy be savable.
Right? Oh, no. The first thing I do whenever Guy shows up in one of those is like, well, I'm protecting you. We're just going to put you behind every Gona Guy unit, and you will be safe. And, you know, whenever I have a chance to rescue someone who died in a show, I do it. I like to feel that powerful.
That is awesome.
So what you're saying is the Gundam games are basically your fantasy, right?
It's like, well, we'll fix this.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. Giran's greed, the people you're saving are kind of assholes sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, now
I really want a Gundam series where Makuve lives.
Good luck on that.
I mean, honestly, my favorite thing about Gundam is the names.
Oh,
the minute you hear a Gundam name, you just know. You know?
Oh.
Do we want to go over to Gundam?
I mean,
no, it's Gundam 00.
Oh.
Oh.
Shit.
Alleluia Haptism.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a real name, by the way.
Hi, this is my friend Revival. My name is Brink Stabity.
A new returner.
Yeah.
Full frontal from
I was about
Unicorn.
to say full frontal.
At least full frontal is maybe a code name.
It's
Sure.
not.
For what is Chippendale's stage name?
Hell, we haven't, like, the most egregious of all, Gundam Zeta, Quattro Bajira.
No, it's vagina.
Yeah, it is.
Now, come on, we gotta have the homoeroticism of Turn A Gundam.
Oh.
Do we have to?
I mean, we don't have
It's
to.
better than Gundam Victory. Just Gundam
I think
Victory.
a frontal lobotomy is better than Gundam Victory.
And we go full circle to that full frontal thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you watch Gundam Victory, you'll know why.
I feel like I shouldn't.
I only got through 9 episodes before I had to quit.
I don't want to have to
Really?
roll
And you
from
got to that? Is that part in the first 9 episodes? I thought that was a little later on.
No, I think that is later. It's just I couldn't stand the everything.
Oh no, wait! I was confusing the bath with the bazooka ladies.
I'm sorry, what?
Guys, I'm just saying, I maybe shouldn't watch this series just so that way I don't have to roll an intelligence check.
Yeah, I feel sorry for some friends of mine
Victory Gundam was the one where Tomino was having severe mental issues, and he included a team of female characters that he killed off when he needed some stress relief.
Tangent.
Yeah.
Now, some friends of mine wanted to watch Gundam, and the first Gundam they watched was G Gundam, and
They got-
they loved it. They were, and then when they started
It's
watching,
very
like,
non-representative is the problem.
they loved G Gundam. They were all about it, and then they watched like War in the Pocket, and they were like, "What's going on?" It's like, I should have warned you.
Yeah, G Gundam's probably my favorite Gundam series, just because it's so different.
Oh yeah,
Just
it's
'cause
like
it's so absurd.
you can't start people out with G Gundam because, well, G Gundam is not the franchise. It's kind of the anti.
Yeah,
it's
oh,
kind of
no,
like
yeah.
why I like Spaceballs so much. I
Mhm.
can't stand regular Star Wars, but I'll watch Spaceballs.
Well,
Okay.
it's like, oh,
We've gone a bit tangential here,
Ah, this
bit.
happens.
but we're having fun.
I
I'm just
did
saying, at least they didn't start with Seed Destiny.
Oh,
Oh
oh.
god.
Hey,
I
if
think
it's
Seed
Gundam
Destiny will
Seed
make you become an
Destiny, then
alcoholic.
Everything else will be good.
The series that they also then remastered.
Yeah.
They remaster everything.
well, they remastered that because guess what? Seed kind of saved the fucking franchise. Like,
Right,
Nope.
but Seed was a complete series, and then Destiny was a sequel filler.
I'm aware of that. They made it because some Seed sold so much goddamn merch DVDs. And
Well, that was because of all of the panty shots. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
No, it's not the panty shots. It's the boob jiggles. Get your series right.
Well, it's like, is there much nudity in the Gundam franchise? Well, mainly in the opening and closing credits. Good lord. I saw the alternates on YouTube, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
Wow.
I was just like, is that part of the series? No, it's just the credits.
Yeah.
this is kind of what Gundam-san was getting at.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who watched that particular.
I think I've watched like one little bit of it and was like, okay.
Well, it's like, yeah, that's the one that's that's the meta series. That's like a literal retelling of how Tomino and the crew created the original Mobile Suit Gundam.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I should probably.
Mm.
Just cuz. As
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know a show's going to be good when you're like, I guess I should watch it because it's what you do. You know?
That's the worth watching is Gundam Build Fighters.
The first
Oh,
one,
wow,
not the
that's
second
right.
one.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess so. Like, yeah, it's like Gundam didn't need stupid harem romances. Like,
And yet.
I know. Like Gundam didn't need a lot of stupid shit, but we got it anyway.
Now, I don't want to run out of time before getting these last couple of questions in here real quick. we can run arbitrarily long. I just don't want everybody to get too tired. That's all.
No, I get you. I get you.
In addition to doing localization on Mazinger, you also said that you were doing the linear notes on Otaku no Video.
Oh yeah, when they did the 25th anniversary re-release, Animego put out a call for crowdfunding, but also sort of crowdsourcing the work.
Mhm.
And I was like, shit, I want my name on that. So that's a thing for your resume. So I actually went in to do editing on the subtitles, and I sent my resume in, and they looked at it, they're like, you're overqualified. We'll have you on the liner notes. And so it was me and like 4 other people, I think, and it took all of us to get these liner notes sorted out because there's
That's a series that would have a lot of them, I would imagine.
well, if you ever saw the original DVD release or video whatever release of Otaku no Video, the liner notes were not awesome. Like when they had
the whole of localization in the 80s was not awesome.
when you had the 5 questions, and when you went to the line notes, it's like, well, we don't know the answers either. I wonder if any of you do. And I'm like, no, we're answering the 5 questions. And so I had, which proved to be extremely difficult at one point, because one of the 5 questions was like, what was on the first cover of like the 1966 February science fiction magazine in Japan? And I'm just like, I don't freaking know. How do I find that out? So I had to call up a friend of mine from college who is now a librarian and be like, I got a question for you, dude.
Rad.
He's like, this is awfully specific. What's it for? Otaku no video. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, hang on. But it really did take about 5 of us to compile, I think what ended up being about 50 pages of notes. And to the point that they could not, when they did the anniversary release, they couldn't even fit all the liner notes in. They just gave you the really high end ones, and then they gave you a URL to read them all because there's just too much. There's so much reference. There's like there's that one panning shot towards the end where it's absolutely every show made within a 10-year period, and so it was fun. It was fun to sort of test your knowledge and compare it against other people, and to sort of have Godmars. What was Godmars? It was 49 episodes. No, it was 52 episodes in a movie. What's your source? Me. I fan subbed it. I'm the source. And so it was fun to have people from all these different anime backgrounds sort of bashing their heads together to create these really extensive notes. And I was very pleased to be a part of it because it's a wonderful release.
Yeah.
Yeah, we interviewed Robert Woodhead at one point.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah. Extensive career, too.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So much stuff.
so much stuff, and there's always new stuff. Because I don't sleep. I mean, I do sleep, but it doesn't feel like I do.
Sleep is for losers.
I'm in an anthology coming out at the end of this week from Nilix Publishing, which is spelled Nilvx.
Of course.
Because it is, and it's
Roman or something.
Because Roman, and it's a series of stories inspired by the tarot, which was kind of fun to write for. And then this summer, I have a story in an anthology called Ride the Starwind, which is Lovecraft-inspired space operas.
Ooh.
And yeah, right? And it's going to be illustrated, and every story is going to have an illustration, so I can't wait to see the one for mine. And then in October, there's a book coming out, My American Nightmare, which is a collection of retellings of American horror stories. And those could be urban legends, short stories, books, films, song lyrics. They really let you branch out, provided it is American in origin. So, so I'm popping up in a lot of books, which is kind of fun. And a lot of Doctor Who charity anthologies too, which is also fun.
For a career you never expected, it seems to be working out pretty well.
Right? I thought I was going to work for NASA, and then I had this moment when I thought I was going to be an actress, and that So.
You ever do any voiceover?
Yeah, I've done some voiceover. Right now, I'm actually working with a company out of Australia who are doing a retelling of the Oz books, and I'm playing. They're doing. I mean, there's all these. What if Alice in Wonderland was grittier? What if Oz was grittier? What if it was more real? And it's not quite that.
It's like, obviously you people have never actually read Frank L. Baum.
Right. I mean, I read those. I read every single one of the Baum books growing up, and I still have them up on my bookshelf. But it's when they say it's modernized, they don't mean the Tin Man is a mobster and the Lion is a bodyguard and the scare, whatever it is. It's like, no, it's still Oz,
something Oz Mafia something.
It's still Oz with the magic, and they go very deep into the original books with like the stork guards in the southern desert and all the Kallidas and all the stuff they leave out of every adaptation. Just all the, if you've ever read the original books, all those little extra things that got left out. But the realism comes in not in what if they weren't magical talking things, but more as in what would actually happen if the ruler of a country died all of a sudden.
Right.
and the person who did it was a total stranger. Would everyone be singing, or would civil war break out, and would she be considered a terrorist and be run out of town? You know, so
Spoilers, it's the latter.
it's
Well, the Winkies were never a huge fan of the Witch of the West, if I recall correctly. But
we actually the episode 4 just came out. And we just did the Winkies part, which was a very interesting one. Aaron Toman, who's the creator, referred to it as the Wizard of Oz by way of the West Wing, because you also the other thing is you keep stopping in on the Emerald City. And the spin doctors in there who are going, so the girl who killed the Witch of the East is now on the road to Oz. What do we tell people? And it's funny. It has heart to it. It's interesting. The character of Dorothy is super fun because she's just, everyone has character development. Everyone is multifaceted. Everyone has a story. They don't all just automatically get along and link arms. They have problems they have to get through. And so playing Dorothy has just been one of the most fun things. I'm so sad she's not in the second book because I'm sitting back while Ozma gets her story, but then she's in like all the others, so I'm feeling good. But if you look up the Chronicles of Oz, it's on YouTube. I think it's on iTunes. 4 of the 6 episodes are out now, and it's completely free to listen to. And it's it has all original music, wonderful cast that is primarily out of Australia, and I can't recommend it enough.
I see what you did there.
I mean, it's true. It's true. It's a wonderful coincidence, but it's also true.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Once you hear, I think that's one of the reasons they got me for Dorothy is they had all these Australian actors, and they went, well, we could get someone to try an American accent, or
we could just kidnap an American. I mean, wait, what?
That tends to be how it happens whenever I go abroad, so it's all good. What am I doing here? What country am I in?
Oh man, I was actually trying to think of something because while you were talking about all the Oz stuff, I was thinking of the James Franco movie from 2013, Oz the Great and Powerful. I thought it was entertaining, but I'm not sure. It seems to have mixed reviews.
I have not actually seen it. I've been putting it off, and it's like I should probably just have a look at it and see what I think. But
it looks like it's mediocre. It's got a 6.3 IMDb and a 59% Rotten Tomatoes. So
see for me, if I'm seeing a movie, I need it to be good or I need it to be bad. You know, the worst thing a movie can be is mediocre in my mind.
Well, I think part of it is like James Franco was on a shit streak right there, starting with Your Highness, and so.
Oh, that was from around then, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I was that 3-year period where he was just like, can't you just do another Pineapple Express?
I mean, I was really hoping when I saw it come out, I was like, I would be happy if it was wonderful. I would also be completely satisfied if it was just devastatingly, embarrassingly terrible, because at least it would be fun. When the Dungeons and Dragons movie came out, which I think I was in college then, and we were the only people in the theater, and it was just, well, this is terrible, but at least we're having fun, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least it's not Return to Oz, but
oh, that thing gave me some nightmares.
Well, you see,
not the good kind of nightmares.
But you see, this is what I was talking about when I was talking about L. Frank Baum's works being dark. It's like, wait a minute, why do you need to make it grittier? Have you never seen anything that was based on?
Yeah, his stuff was pretty nuts.
And in the land of Oz, no one can die, even when they're chopped up into teeny tiny pieces.
I just hated the fact that Return to Oz was a mashup of Ozma of Oz and the real Return to Oz. So you really got some of the best and the worst of both.
Yeah, and it was so confusing to me because I had read the books, and it was my first time as a child going, that's not the way it goes. You know, I was being an annoying little hipster about it. So
I've got it on DVD, and I'm just like, God, do I dare watch this for the kitsch or? Ugh.
Honestly, the best thing I have on DVD by way of adaptations is this version of Alice in Wonderland they made it back in the I want to say 70s, and it was almost like a freaking variety show because it had Carol Channing in it, and it had just anyone who was a musical theater celebrity at the time. And it's the wildest thing, and I watched it all growing up. And it's not a great adaptation, but it sure is a great show. And it's like Steve Allen just went, I have an excuse to get all my buddies over to my place today, and said, hey, does anyone want to do Alice in Wonderland? How's the story go? I don't know. We'll just do some songs, and
Yeah. And it's
delightful.
It's just, it's like, Fairuza, we love you, but God, you were so much better in the craft. And that's saying something.
Yeah, that's ooh.
Okay, we got to give her a break because she was a kid in that movie, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's yeah, but even so.
Quickly, you were mentioning when you talked about your freelance career. One of the funny things that came up was I was feeling terrible when we were originally supposed to have you on the show, so I just canceled the episode for that week, and I was like, oh God, I hate bumping people like that. But and then the next day, the guys post a link in our chat here on Skype, and it's like, oh hey, that was our guest this week. Fuck.
Oh.
They posted a link to one of your Crunchyroll articles.
Oh, no.
I'm just like, oh, God, she writes for Crunchyroll. I don't need to bump this person ever again.
No. That doesn't give me quite as much power as people seem to think. Like, I go to conventions, I'm like, you write for Crunchyroll? Yep, that I do. And I don't get like, I enjoy it. I work with great people. I work with funny people. We have a nice little newsroom chat that we're in all day. It doesn't give me any sort of magical powers or $1 million or anything. And I can't exactly go on Crunchyroll and write a smear piece on anybody. Not that I would, but they left me out, but nah, because what I tend to do on Crunchyroll is, oh hey, another family restaurant's doing a collaboration with Attack on Titan again, or
oh God,
or oh hey, another light novel harem show or harem series is getting adapted into an anime, and I'll bet you we're gonna run it. Or, but now Crunchyroll is a great place to work. It's fun people. You do get a lot of freedom. You can get very silly. We do like to put very trolly headline pictures to make each other laugh, and see what we can get away with puns in the headlines and stuff like that. So sometimes we put in placeholder headlines that don't make it, such as they found Osamu Tezuka's furry porn stash.
Tezuka, huh?
Tezuka drew little like pinup mouse girls and stuff, and they were just like in his files, and then one of his daughters found them recently.
And they were like,
and they printed. They're like, yeah, this explains a lot. And they printed them in an art magazine, and I'm doing this, and it's like they found Tezuka's furry porn. I have a degree from William and Mary, and I'm writing this, but
gives new meaning to the phrase puff piece.
I thought you were just making stuff up, and I was going to make a Mamoru Hosoda joke, but
No, they really did. No, this was a real thing. If I don't recommend you do this, but if you want to go and do a Google image search for Tezuka mouse porn, you'll find stuff.
I'm pretty sure it's a rite of passage in Japan that all great mangakas are required to delve into the dark arts at some point.
Sometimes a guy just wants to relax, I guess.
I mean, I write a genie comic that is the best way to describe it is it's a cross between Tenchi Muyo, I Dream of Genie, and Harry Potter.
Oh, wow. That's kind of wild. I like that.
Yeah, the Harry Potter aspect hasn't really come into it yet, but
It will eventually.
right now we've got the harem and the genie, so we're just working on the rest.
So the Harry Potter part, is that where like people just run around killing each other, or what?
No, it's the whole "you're a wizard, Alan" thing.
Oh, okay.
That's the main characters.
That's probably better. You know?
Yeah. they find that there's a doorway to a secret magical school in the broom closet of the community college.
Fantastic. Tell me where that college is.
Well, it's a fictional place that I invented called Sam Hill, Louisiana.
And yet I believe that there could be a Sam Hill, Louisiana, honestly.
Well, people are like,
yeah.
it's kind of like Springfield in The Simpsons. You know, it's right on the border between Louisiana, Iowa, Illinois, and Florida. Which now, if there was ever a Bermuda Triangle / square in the United States, those 4 states would be it.
I was gonna say, yeah, that would be it, because Florida, in and of itself, is
but those states don't border each other. It's like, don't bog yourself down with the damn details.
One of the things, Springfield borders Maine somehow.
Yeah. Springfield borders Maine. In the Simpsons movie, that was the joke, was that they actually showed it being literally on. I had the shirt that I had to wash 80 times to get the wrinkles out of it because it was shaped like a donut. Oh, God. Well, as with all good things, this unfortunately must come to an end because we're running out of time.
Yeah, and it is after midnight here, and, you know.
I think half our cast is napping right now.
Oh, that's sweet.
Ogre's like, not me. I'm here.
Yeah.
I am unironically here.
Unironically, that's nice.
Yeah, I didn't do the intros right either. I was normally like my good friend Adam, and on color commentary, Elemental Ogre, and bringing up the broken sounds, Petty Fan, and the Wearer of Funny Hats Brigade, the Colics.
Nice.
did it all wrong today, so it's like I'm glad we're ending on a positive note. So. All right, now this is your chance. Plug everything. Give us websites.
I can't. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the best way to see everything I do is go to caradennison.com. That's where I blog. I have links to my various news feeds on the different sites I work for, like Crunchyroll and Viewster. I talk about the things I do. You can check out the books I'm in, find out where to buy them. If you're in the mood for paranormal romance that isn't sketchy, you can also go check out owlsflower.com.
Beautiful.
And somewhere between those two, magically, you will see the majority of what I do.
All right. Do me one quick favor before they kick you out of the group chat, because this is our private channel.
Of course.
Post the links in the group chat so that way Petty Fan and Golix can tweet them, and I'll add them to the show notes later.
I'll tweet them to all 5 of my followers.
Yeah, I'm getting that done
4 of whom are in this chat.
Speeds of 3.
There, I think I done did it.
There you go.
Yeah, I did it.
I'm getting the swirling icon on the stream. Does that mean we're dead?
It probably means it's lagging slightly.
OBS dropped for half a second, but it reconnected, so it's probably just the buffer's catching up.
If we lost this show, I'll kill you.
It's.
Oh no!
Don't worry, Mac. It's locally recorded. I'll just send you that, and you can upload it, and no one will ever know.
Oh,
right,
like I did.
Come back, talk about Gundam again.
That's right. Like I did with that first 15 minutes of the Richard Epcar show.
That never happened.
Well, it was for like a brief moment there. We had a time split, and it was on Twitch. I don't know what happened.
I think you were on the hallucinogenics there, Mac.
Oh yeah, that's the story we're sticking to now, huh?
Yep.
All right, man, humongous thank you for Kara Dennison coming back to our program and talking about all of her various projects and wares.
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been so fun.
Awesome. I'm glad that worked out for everybody. And next time, if we call you to be on the show, I promise I won't have some kind of grand mal seizure and then bump your show.
I do.
God. Yeah.
I'm glad we got to do it. I enjoyed it. So that's what matters. And you guys are awesome. So thank you.
Beautiful. All right. So again, check out her project at karadennison.com and owlsflower.com. On behalf of the cast and crew at Moonhawk Studios Presents and one absentee Sobe, this is your host, Mac Paladin, saying thanks for listening and stay safe out there, kids.